So basically what we're saying is everybody in the world, we're related to each other.
Yeah.
Yep. So all human beings are related to this original couple.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right?
Yeah, very important.
When you think about actually, and I go into the history of this a lot, when we think about the questions of race is actually a false theory of origins that really rose up, deeply entwined with colonialism and explaining inherent superiority of people who are Europeans that were colonizing people who that were not. And one of the big questions that was on the church's plate at the time is like, well, all these Native Americans and Indians in India and like Africans, do we share the gospel with them? I mean, or was the gospel just meant for Europeans? I mean, that was actually a really serious question being raised. And most of the church came to believe that actually, yeah, the gospel is for all of these people. And even though many of the really negative things in colonialism still went on, there was still embedded in it this teaching that, we're all equally human. And it took us a long time to get past these misconceptions about race. It's a very ugly several centuries of world history, honestly, what happened during that time. Like the degree of dehumanization and the degree of frank evil that was justified in the name of really understanding these different people. But when you get right down to it, the church was right about this. We all did descend from Adam and Eve, and we really should have understood ourselves as equally in the image of God, equally deserving of rights and dignity. And that's actually what the church really took as doctrine. That ended up being correct. Now, in the 1800s, a lot of people, and more recently too, have argued that the church was wrong about that. It's called the doctrine of monogenesis. Right. They've argued the church is wrong about the doctrine of monogenesis, that if Adam and Eve existed, they would not be ancestors of us all. So most prominently, that was argued by, in recent years, by biologos and evolutionary creationists like Dennis Venema. It's just important to understand that they really had the science wrong here. It's not like they had it a little bit wrong. It was wrong, and it wasn't just in one place. It was several places. They thought that the traditional position of the church had to be revised. There needed to be a paradigm shift. That's what they argued. Some of them argued that we just need to understand Adam and Eve metaphorically. Others argued that maybe we should just understand Adam and Eve as not our ancestors, but just as somehow representative of us, independent of ancestry. The part that I agree with them on is that even if the science didn't turn out the way it actually did, my faith would be intact because it rests on who Jesus is, the second Adam, not the first Adam. It doesn't really matter to me so much about what's going on with Adam and Eve if I know who Jesus is. That part I agree with them. But the part that they were just wrong about is that science was challenging the tradition. In fact, science has actually shown that, like I said, that the church's tradition was correct, that we are all connected to one another, even in the very recent past.
Incredible. That's the message we need to be kind of sharing with the churches now, isn't it?
Yeah.
More and more.
Yeah, whatever you think about Adam and Eve, I think we can all objectively look at church history and understand that monogenesis has been an important part of the church's testimony, including its testimony against racism. Now, of course, the church has had problems with racism too. This doesn't give us a pass on everything. But that's part of the reason why people are reluctant to leave it. And there's reasons. It's not even about what Genesis says. One of the things that struck me about evolutionary creationists is how much they would focus on Genesis. But why most people affirmed monogenesis had nothing to do with Genesis. It had to do with Romans and 1 Corinthians and Acts and what Paul says, not what Genesis says. It had to do with what Paul says.
Okay.
And those are the passages that they tiptoed around, or usually didn't mention, and because that's really where the heart of the conflict has lied. Because some of them, in Dennis Venema's book with Scott McKnight, they essentially go down the path of saying, well, Paul was right about Jesus, but essentially wrong about Adam. And that's a lot for the people in the church to swallow, especially once again when you tie in this history. Now, okay, if we had to go there, because that's where the science really pointed, maybe we should. We should at least think about it carefully. It's just that we don't have to, because that's not where the science takes us. They were wrong on the science. And so I think that gives an immense amount of breathing room for those of us in the church.